So for my topic for my speech, I chose the short story by Rebecca Harding Davis, Life in the Iron Mills. It is in the Norton Anthology, Volume 1, and it starts on page 1227. Um, it's a very, uh, it's very based on Christianity and her personal beliefs on religion. So normally that's not something that's discussed in depth in classrooms. But being that we're in a college level course and um, it's good to discuss different topics and to push the norms and to read things that invoke questions in people. I feel like it would be a good story for us to add to the syllabus, maybe for future classes. The story basically is about about a couple who lived in the 1800s who went through the same trials and tribulations that we experience today. Basically, someone that didn't matter. He was a worker. He had no voice, no opinion. Um, it discusses politics involved in how people who have money have more power. People who don't have money don't have power. And most people will be able to relate to that because we still experience that today. A lot of the story is based around how his employers view him as just an asset that's disposable. At one point in the short story, the owners come in to check up basically on the mill workers and see, what the production is like, and are discussing finances. And it's a turning point in the story because the main character, Hugh, his wife happens to be there. She wanted to make sure that he had lunch. So his employers come in and basically she ends up stealing a large sum of money from them. And she admits to her husband once they get home that she's done it, and he contemplates then for several pages what to do with the money and whether he should keep it or whether he shouldn't, because he's never been a thief and he doesn't want to be a thief. But at the same time, he struggles because he feels like as hard as he works, he deserves to have a happy, normal life and to not have to be looked down on and to not have his children suffer about things. So he eventually decides to try to keep the money because it's his God-given right to live a happy, normal life like these men and women can. And it's his given right to be able to provide that for his children, even though working in the factory hasn't done that for him. So he keeps the money, and although his wife stole it, he takes the rap for it, and they both go to prison. But he gets a harder sentence, and he ends up committing suicide. In Hugh's struggle in the story, the reason that he finally decides that he's entitled to this money and he has this right, he shouldn't have to work so hard, is because someone had quoted scripture to him and said that basically it's his right by birth, by being a Christian. He has that right to be equal to everyone else. That just represents the struggle that the majority of the population probably experiences, where we go to work and we come home and we do the same thing every day, and we're just trying to stay afloat, and we're trying to make some sort of difference in our children's lives and in our families' lives. But at the same time, politically, things are not changing the way that we need them to. And so he loses that struggle with trying to figure out what's wrong and what's right in life, and with just wanting what's best for his children and for his family. He fails, and I think a lot of parents and families can relate to that as well. So I feel like the story itself just basically teaches us that no matter how things may seem to be. You can't get ahead by cheating or stealing or lying. Rebecca Harding Davis she was very against the religion and how things were practiced, and where people were excluded based on money or based on what type of family they come from, or just the very rigid church guidelines. And so I found they call themselves The Simple Way, and I'm going to show a little video excerpt from them just basically saying they also represent being opposed to passive Christianity, which is what she resisted so much, and what a lot of her stories are about, including the life in the iron mills. And I really like what they represent, and I feel like this can open people's eyes to what the role in government has in religion, and how they both are intertwined, and what we can do to try to be more accepting and more helpful, so that people like the main character in the story don't have to struggle, and can have an actual real chance in life without having to end up feeling like there is no way out.
Our community started, the real catalyst for it was when we were in college, and there was a group of poor and homeless families living in an abandoned cathedral in North Philly, and I've written about that some, and it was an incredible moment where these almost 100 people were living in the St. Ed's Cathedral at 8th and York, and we read about it in college, and then got involved in that struggle, and it was out of that a group of us moved into that neighborhood, and we've been living there for 10 years, but we really had this vision that was rooted in the scripture, where Acts 2 and 4 says all the believers were together and shared everything they had, and then it says there were no needy persons among them. They ended poverty. It was one of the signs of Pentecost, at the birth of the church. And so we caught that vision, and we said, there sort of was a moment where we said, let's stop complaining about the church that we've experienced, and work on becoming the church that we dream of.
And you can view the rest of this video, as well as learn more about The Simple Way, at thesimpleway.org.